In this video, we're going to learn how to drift launch your kite in the water by yourself. Most of the time, it's much safer and easier to have an assistant help you launch, but every so often, you may have to launch on your own. If there's nobody around, maybe you're the last kiter to the beach, there's nobody to help you launch, you might have to go out on your own, or the conditions might be a rocky shoreline and it's just not safe to launch with an assistant. So we're going to show you how to do a drift launch. The first step to drift launching is making sure you have your kite all rigged up properly. All right. Kite's rigged up properly. I've double checked my lines. Everything looks good. Next thing I'm going to do is to start wrapping the lines on the bar. Now you have two choices here. If you have a wide open, clean area to go out into the water, you don't have to wrap your lines. I typically wrap them most of the time. We might have rocks that you have to walk over and you want your lines wound tightly and nicely on the bar. Pay attention to how you're winding your lines, because you're going to have to unwind them in the water in the exact same sequence. So this is probably the most important part in the whole sequence if you are winding your lines. All right, let's get started. I'm going to start with the middle lines. I'm just going to go right over the top. Grab the top line coming underneath. Grab the fourth line, wrapping around, and I'm doing a figure 8 every time. On the way up, I'm going to do a couple of half hitches where I'm going to rotate the lines. You've got to make sure the lines don't get loose on you, but I'm doing a half hitch right around the bar. The reason I'm doing this, if you have a really rocky shore, again, or a lot of weeds at the shoreline, this is helping to secure most of the lines to start with. But then after I go through the next step and I grab my kite and I'm ready to go in the water, I'm going to wrap all the rest of the lines really tight on the bar, and then I'll use the bungees to keep everything in place. So we have the half hitches on the lines. Next thing I'm going to do is just set the bar off to the side of the kite, making sure the lines are still nice and neat. All right, so we'll take the board off the kite, set it down, pick up the kite. I'm going to rotate it. As you rotate the kite, make sure you walk in the direction that you rotate so the leading edge isn't scraping across the sand or the grass. I'm going to grab my board and just set it over here so it's with me. I'm going to double check my lines at the back of the kite. Everything looks good. Next step, I'm going to take my safety leash, attach it to the pump leash on the kite, so that secures my kite. I'm gonna grab my barn lines, still making sure everything looks nice and neat. It does. If there's a lot of junk at the shore or rocks, I'm going to wrap this all the way up until the back of my lines get tight, which they are right now. Then I'm going to secure them one last time with the bungees. So I have these secured twice. Once with the 2 half hitches, and now with the bungees. Then when I carry the kite and the barn lines out, all I do is take the barn lines, put it over the top of the kite. And again, I can't stress enough about making sure you're very careful on keeping your lines organized and know exactly where they are at all times. So we're all set up on land, ready to go into the water. Lines are wrapped up, board's in our hand, let's go to the water. As you are walking into the water, just make sure that if there's any weeds or twigs, that they don't get caught on the lines. As you're walking upwind, get yourself probably about 100 feet from shore, and at that point you can start letting your lines out. What I do is I'll undo the bungees, I'll start letting the lines out, making sure they go under the kite. Don't let anything go over the kite. Let about 2 or 3 wraps unwind, walk upwind. As you're doing all this, make sure you keep your board right next to you. I can't stress enough how important it is to make sure that board stays with you. If it blows downwind by accident, you're gonna have to go get it, and you could end up with a mess. So every time you do an unwrap of the lines, walk upwind a little bit, unwrap a little more, walk upwind, Once you get to the end, check your lines, make sure everything looks good. Then you're going to want to actually hook in at that point in time. So go ahead and hook your chicken loop into your harness. And then when everything looks good there, and again, pay attention to your lines. This is an area where you could get a line could wrap around your bar. And if that happens, you're probably gonna have to come in and redo the whole process again. Then what you're going to wanna do is undo the pump leash from the kite. You have to put your elbow over the leading edge to keep it in place so it doesn't fly away on you. Then you can attach your leash to your bar. All right, we're at the final steps for how to do your drift launch. Now we're going to double check what's going on the kite. The kite is leading edge down on the water. You're going to lift the kite up, rotate it one direction to take a look at the left wingtip, just to make sure that there's no lines that are wrapped around your left wingtip. Then you're gonna rotate it to the other side so that you can check the right wingtip. Make sure there's no lines that are wrapped on it. Set the kite down on the water. Very important at this point in time, rotate your kite 90 degrees so that the back of the kite is catching the wind and the front of the kite, the wind is pushing it down. Then when you are ready and everything looks good, if it's not too windy, you can just let go of your kite, or if your kite sits on the water nicely, you can just let go. If it's really windy out, maybe throw a little bit of water on the canopy before you let it go. At this point, you're gonna want to then let go of the kite. As you let go, walk backwards, upwind, as the kite is going downwind, just to shorten the time that your lines will then be tensioned. When your lines start tensioning, during this whole process, do not hold on to your bar. Just let your bar do what it wants to naturally do. The kite will go into normal relaunch position. Check your lines, see how they look. Figure out how to relaunch your kite, off you go. Great job. Thank you for watching our video. If you found this helpful, please subscribe to our YouTube channel. If you have any comments or questions, please leave them below and we'll respond as soon as we can.